picture two different paths laid out before you. The first leads to a future where it's very common you're hardly able to move, confined to a chair, relying on others for even the simplest tasks. You have one of those weekly pill boxes where you take different pills on different days, and you're not able to do that much. And as a result, you're not that happy about your life. Sure, you have moments of happiness, but you spend a lot of time trying to distract yourself from your poor health and just waiting for the end. Now, the second path is different. Imagine an active life filled with adventure, independence, the ability to pursue your passions without limitations. The choice is yours here.
Welcome to the Legendary Life Podcast, where it's all about taking control of your health, losing fat, transforming your body, and living the life you deserve with celebrity fitness trainer and longevity enthusiast, Ted Rice. I don't know about you, but I want to be able to hike breathtaking scenery when I'm in my 60s and 70s. I want to be able to dance all night at my children's or grandchildren's wedding. I want to be able to live my life until the end of my life. I don't want to end up like my father, who got stuck, unable to get out of a chair without anyone's assistance. And what we're going to talk about today in this episode is, why do we lose strength and muscle as we get older? Because that is the key. Keeping that is the key to living the type of life we want. And more importantly, we're going to talk about what you can do to keep your muscle mass, to keep your vitality as you get older. So if that's something that you're interested in, this is the episode for you. What is up, my friend? Welcome to the Legendary Life Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Rice, health expert and coach to founders, entrepreneurs, and other high-performing professionals. And we produce this podcast for two reasons. Number one, there's a lot of misinformation out there. I know, I've been in this business for 24 years. I want to give you the best, most actionable advice on the internet in this podcast so you can avoid going down those dead-end roads that I went down when I was seeking better health information. Number two is, if you are a founder, an entrepreneur, a high-performing professional, and you know the power of coaching, and you're interested in fast-tracking your success in your health, I want you to think about me when it comes to who to reach out to. So let's dive into it. And I want to start off this podcast like this. In 1513, the Spanish explorer Ponce de Leon set sail from Puerto Rico with 3 ships and a crew of experienced sailors to find the Fountain of Youth, a mythical spring with the power to rejuvenate those who drank or bathed in its waters. Now, he never found the spring. He found Florida, my home state, instead. But Ponce de Leon's quest inspired generations of explorers and treasure hunters to continue searching for the Fountain of Youth. And while this enchanted spring may be the stuff of legends, recent scientific breakthroughs have brought us closer than ever to unlocking the secrets of maintaining our strength as we age. And one of the biggest keys in understanding how to maintain our strength, our vigor, live life on our own terms, independently as we get older, is to understand and, more importantly, to combat a condition called sarcopenia. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about what sarcopenia is, what causes it, and what you can do to combat this age-related foe so that you can preserve your youthful vigor. So let's talk about this, because this is the sobering reality of sarcopenia. I don't know if you're a fan of Jack LaLanne like I am, but I remember Jack showed up. He was in great shape in his 60s, still working out. In his 70s, still working out, still training. But once he got in his 70s and 80s and 90s, his body changed a lot. And here was a guy who was exercising frequently and made it into his 90s. but the change in his body was visible. And I always remembered that. It stood out to me. And I was like, man, are we all going to end up like that? Even if we're lifting weights and doing all the right things? And the answer is, well, hopefully not. There's going to need to be some medical breakthroughs. But as I said earlier, the understanding that we have now is so much better than when Jack was in his heyday. So let's talk about what sarcopenia is and why it's important to you, even if you're in your 40s and 50s. So it's defined as the age-related decline in skeletal muscle mass, strength, and function. And here's the thing. You may not think about it if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, but the truth is that the foundations of sarcopenia begin much earlier than most people realize. Even as early as our 30s, sarcopenia starts to gradually chip away at our strength and vitality. So if you're in your 30s, 40s, or even 50s now, or even 60s, you can significantly reduce the impact of sarcopenia as you age, preserving your mobility, balance, and overall quality of life. And I want to tell you something because I threw in those extra decades, but I want you to understand this. As you get older, especially past your 60s, studies have shown your metabolism goes down. You become more what's called anabolic. You become more resistant to building muscle. And there's a few reasons here. We're going to dive into some of them today. But the point is this: what you do now will help you determine the quality of your future. And I want to even share some studies here because according to a study published in the Journal of Cachexia, if I'm saying that properly, sarcopenia and muscle, adults between the ages of 40 and 50 can experience an average decline in muscle mass of around 0.5% to 1% per year. This rate of decline accelerates after age 50, reaching up to 2% per year. As a result, by the time individuals reach their 70s and beyond, sarcopenia can have a devastating effect on their independence and well-being. And if you're around my age, I'm 46, you probably watched or are watching now your parents go through this. I remember seeing my dad gradually lose more and more of his physical strength, lose more and more of his ability to get around, walk upstairs, walk at all. And he was still hanging in there until one day he got a bacterial infection, ended up in the intensive care unit, and spent a lot of time laying down in a bed being treated. Now, the doctors cured the infection, but all the time he spent in bed recovering caused his strength and muscle to disappear. We all know that it's a use it or lose it phenomenon. And if you don't have much to lose, it's kind of like living month to month. You can pay all your bills, you can keep the lights on, but man, if you have one issue, you're put in the hole. And financially, there's still things you can do. You can declare bankruptcy. But when it comes to our body, it's not the same. And even if you can get it back, it's going to be a tremendous amount of work. So I want to draw that analogy for you there because that is where most people are heading. And ironically, we get more financially successful usually as we get older. You can keep making more and more and more money, investing more and more money, raising your net worth. But when it comes to muscle, there's a limit and it starts to decline, your ability to bring it back. And my dad, after he got back home, that was the beginning of the end for him. He died 5 months later. And he didn't just die, but he had a really tough time going to doctor's appointments, having nurses check in on him. And it was not a good life. So I do have great news. I know it might be depressing to think about the biological reality of aging and death and how your hair is going to turn gray or fall out in my case, and how your skin gets wrinkly and weird. But the great news is this. I remember seeing an MRI recently, and it was an MRI of 3 different people, 40-year-old triathlete, and you could see in the MRI the cross section of the muscle. There was a lot of muscle, the bone looked strong, and there was very little fat. And then it showed a 74-year-old sedentary man, and you could see there's all this fat around the muscle and even inside the muscle, the bones were smaller. And then they showed a 70-year-old triathlete. And it's hard to tell the difference between the 40-year-old triathlete and 70-year-old triathlete. Now, if you were looking at them again, you would be able to tell the difference. With the 70-year-old, it's going to look different. But inside the muscle, it still looked healthy. It looked so similar, hardly noticeable. So with muscle, it's a use it or lose it situation, but it goes way beyond just lifting weights. So let's talk about this for a minute. We're still trying to figure out all the factors that cause sarcopenia. And although staying physically active, as I said, is a key component, it goes beyond just hitting the gym. So we know that oxidative stress plays a role. We know that chronic low-grade inflammation plays a role. We know that lifestyle factors, like, of course, being sedentary, poor nutrition, too much body fat can play a role. We know that too little sleep can play a role. Sleep, if you're sleeping 5 hours or less, we know that this can cause muscle loss, especially if you're not lifting weights. So understanding this is key. And what I also like about this is I want to shift the conversation away from exercises for weight loss. It helps with weight loss and doesn't even help that much. It's more of a nutrition thing. But what exercise is incredible for is helping us to live the type of life that we want as we get older. Again, if you want to be dancing at your children's or grandchildren's wedding all night, if you want to be traveling the world because you finally retired and now you've saved up all this money and invested all this money, well, the streets in Europe aren't made for people who can't walk around easily. Need to be in shape to walk those 15 to 20,000 steps per day when you're on vacation, to walk up all the steps, to walk up the hills. You got to be in shape. So let's talk about actionable advice to combat sarcopenia. And the first one is, of course, you have to lift weights or resistance training. This is the number one way to help fight sarcopenia. And a study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found that participants who lifted weights at least twice a week found significant improvements in muscle strength and function. So the action here is make 2 workouts a week your minimum. You can use resistance bands, body weight training. You can work with machines, barbells or dumbbells. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you get 2 resistance training sessions in every week. This is your job. If you want to be able to walk and climb up stairs and travel and play golf and tennis as you get older. So number 2 is prioritize protein. It's very interesting. In my coaching programs, sometimes my clients ask me, do I have to do this? How long do I have to do this high protein approach for? I say, well, let's put it this way. As you get older, it becomes more important, not less important. So hitting 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that becomes more important, not less important. So what you want to do if you don't want to do the math there and figure it out, shoot for around 30 to 50 grams of protein every meal. Look at what you're eating, read the labels. How many grams of protein are in it? Get your protein in. Number 3 is get your daily dose of vitamin D. Low levels of vitamin D have been linked to muscle weakness and a higher risk of sarcopenia. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition revealed that vitamin D supplementation significantly improved muscle strength and function in older adults. So aim for a daily intake of 800 to 1,000 international units of vitamin D through a combination of sunlight, food, and supplements if you need them. And of course, get your vitamin D test to figure out where you are and how well you score. Number 4, don't neglect omega-3 fatty acids. So omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish, flaxseed, walnuts have been shown to have a positive impact on muscle mass and function. As an example, a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that omega-3 supplementation combined with resistance training led to greater improvements in muscle strength and function in older adults compared to just resistance training alone. So what's the action here? You want to consume at least 2 servings of fatty fish every week or 1 to 2 grams of fish oil daily. And I want to tell you what I do. I like to go out to eat. And so what I try to do is prioritize eating sushi. So I try to hit a sushi place 2 times a week. Or on the days that I don't do that, which, right, there's at least 5 and maybe even more, I take a fish oil supplement. What we know is fish oil lowers inflammation. We need the omega-3 fatty acids in our diet to make sure that inflammation doesn't run rampant in our bodies. So number 5 is staying active. Aerobic exercise is what we're talking about here. It not only benefits cardiovascular health, but also supports muscle health. So studies show that engaging in regular aerobic activities like brisk walking, cycling, swimming can improve your muscle strength and function. And I want to tell you this, another thing is that improving your cardiovascular system seems to be key for this. For example, some of the studies on sarcopenia, they're starting, the experts who study this, they're starting to believe that one of the reasons why that anabolic resistance happens, in other words, as we get older, it becomes harder to get the nutrition from protein and translate that into maintaining or growing muscle mass. They think that our circulation plays a role. And lifting weights hard is not cardiovascular exercise. So the action here is to aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise every week. I know I'm putting a lot on you here, but the thing is, these are the rules that God gave us, evolution gave us, however you want to think about it. These are the rules of the human body. Number 6, get enough sleep. Adequate sleep is crucial for overall health and muscle recovery. And research has shown that poor sleep quality and sleep deprivation specifically can cause you to lose muscle. So the action here is aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night. And make sure you practice all the things you've heard over and over again. Establishing a consistent sleep schedule, creating a relaxing bedtime environment, and avoiding alcohol and caffeine late at night. Number 7, supplement with creatine. Creatine is a natural compound. It's found in the foods we eat, especially red meat, and it's been shown to improve muscle strength and function, particularly when you combine it with lifting weights. And a meta-analysis, which is a group of studies published in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity, found that creatine supplementation led to greater gains in muscle strength in older adults compared to resistance training alone. And of course, you want to talk to your doctor about supplementing if you have any medical issues, especially with your kidneys. For example, I had a kidney I didn't have a kidney. I had a client who had a kidney transplant, sorry. Creatine was not on his routine. But if you're healthy, it shouldn't be an issue. So the action here is to take 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate every day. You don't need to take the fancy creatine. You just need to take the regular creatine monohydrate. Number 8, stay hydrated. Proper hydration is essential for overall health and has been linked to optimal muscle function. We know that you don't perform well when you're dehydrated, cognitively, endurance-wise, and even muscle strength. A study in the Journal of Gerontology revealed that dehydration could negatively impact muscle strength and endurance in older adults. And one thing that is important here to realize is as we get older, it becomes a little bit harder for us to determine when we're thirsty or not. So the action here is to make sure you're drinking enough water. And the way to make sure that you're drinking enough water is to check the color of your urine. If your urine is any darker than a light see-through yellow, go get a glass of water right now. You're dehydrated. The goal should be from when you wake up to the end of the day, but not too late at night, because you'll would be waking up peeing 2 or 3 times if you drink too much water too late. But your goal should be to keep your pee light yellow for the entire day. Number 9, manage stress. Chronic stress can have detrimental effects on muscle mass and function. Well, how? Well, it leads to elevated cortisol levels, which can result in muscle breakdown and stop your muscles from growing. So the action here is to implement stress management techniques weekly. What do I do personally? I get massages. I spend time in nature. What I do actually depends on where I am. For example, I'm in Miami right now in Coconut Grove. I took some walks in a park. It was just so beautiful. Probably won't have time to get a massage. And I also did some deep breathing exercises. So the point here is, do you have a stress management practice that you do weekly? This is super important. Number 10 is foster social connections. Staying socially active and engaged has been linked to better overall health, including the maintenance of muscle mass and function. A study published in Scientific Reports found that older adults with strong social connections had a lower risk of experiencing sarcopenia. And there's probably a couple different reasons why this is true. Number 1 is we know from other research that if we're socially isolated, that means we're by ourselves, or if we are experiencing loneliness. So you can go to work every day and be surrounded by people, but you feel lonely because of the lack of depth of connections with other people, or you don't feel like you can communicate with them. So that raises inflammation levels. And the other side of this is probably if you have strong social connections, you're probably doing more things. So the action here is to treat your relationships with your friends and family as part of your health. I remember, and I've shared this story before, I had a client tell me, and the guy, he was in great shape. Shout out to you, Rich. I don't know if you're still listening or out there, but I worked with Rich for, I think, over a year. And Rich told me one time he had this incredible exchange with a friend of his. And he talked about how it had such a positive impact on the way he felt. And then I started telling him, Rich, how about this? How about let's go beyond just the exercise and the nutrition and start making sure that we schedule time with the people who lift us up, who we feel energized and happy afterward. That is part of health, folks. That is part of health. Think beyond the exercise, the diet, and the popping the supplements and the kale shakes and the superfood salads. Think about your social connections. So those are the 10 things that I wanted to share with you today. And I want you to do this. Picture 2 different paths laid out before you. The first leads to a future where it's very common. You're hardly able to move, confined to a chair, relying on others for even the simplest tasks. You have one of those weekly pill boxes where you take different pills on different days, and you're not able to do that much. And as a result, you're not that happy about your life. Sure, you have moments of happiness, but you spend a lot of time trying to distract yourself from your poor health and just waiting for the end. Now, the second path is different. Imagine an active life filled with adventure, independence, the ability to pursue your passions without limitations. The choice is yours here. By following the strategies we discussed, you have the power to combat this part of aging and alter the course of your life. Again, imagine playing with your grandchildren, hiking through breathtaking landscapes, traveling through Europe, dancing the night away at a friend's birthday party. That's what we're talking about here. Longevity is more about the quality of our life. It's not just about living longer. Who wants to live longer? Most of us are going to end up dying in our 70s and 80s from very predictable causes. But can we add that life to our years? So that quest for eternal youth may be a myth, but the ability to maintain our strength, vitality, and independence as we age is a reality. And I want to ask you to rate yourself right now. How well are you doing on these things? Are you just putting it off right now because you're too busy? Or are you in motion and you're doing well with some of these and you realize, you know what, you have some work to do to step your game up even more? Or are you crushing it right now? Where regardless of where you're at, I want to ask you, what is something that you can take action on after listening to this podcast? What can you take action on? Is it that you need to exercise more? Is it that you need to be more proactive about spending time with the people you care about in your life? What is it? That's what I want you to focus on. That's what I want you to take action on. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. And on Monday, we'll be discussing how to conquer your cravings for high-calorie foods. We'll explore the science behind food addiction and how our brain's reward system can lead to unhealthy eating habits. And most importantly, I'm going to be making this information practical for you. So I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks to help you overcome cravings. So if you're struggling with a craving right now and you feel like this craving, it's part of me, it's who I am, it'll never go away, that's not true. I'm going to break it down for you in this upcoming episode on Monday and give you the tactics, the understanding to conquer your cravings for good. Hope you have an amazing weekend and speak to you then.
That's a wrap on today's episode, folks. We truly hope that you found immense value in our discussions and that these insights will help propel you to that next level of health, regardless of where you are right now. And if you know someone who could benefit from listening to this episode, perhaps a fellow high achiever or driven professional in your network, do us a favor and share it with them. You never know how much of an impact these conversations can have on someone's life and success. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Legendary Life Podcast. We're on a mission to help you reach your fullest potential, and your support means the world to us. So until next time, stay ambitious, stay focused, and keep crushing your health goals.